Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I generally don't do videos on Mondays, but I'm going to make an exception today real quick for SOFI and also for PayPal because they both open tomorrow before the bell. And generally SOFI is just extremely volatile when it comes to earnings day. And PayPal may be a little bit volatile, but it's generally just not as much. I'm going to talk about SOFI first. I'm going to tell you what the levels I'm watching. I'm going to tell you what I think has been happening. I'm also going to tell you what exactly I think in a second here. I mean, granted, I am more interested in just give you some generalities in terms of some levels and upside to the downside, because I don't play earnings. I think it's very, very dangerous to play earnings. It's almost gambling. You don't have any insider information, and you can try to look at like options flow and things like that. But I just want to stay away from playing earnings in general. Overall, I'm looking at SOFI, and this still look relatively a lot of different kind of bullish developments that's been happening, right? On the weekly chart here, you see you've put out the Ichimoku cloud. It got rejected underneath at the bottom of the cloud, which is completely expected. I did not expect it to just push through the weekly Ichimoku cloud on the first try. And what I would be saying here is that the blue line has been serving as resistance for SOFI for about half a year now. It's just been resistance, 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 and in July, we have flipped this resistance potentially into support, back testing it. Looks like it's holding so far, and right, just kind of stuck in the range between the blue line here and the bottom of the cloud, as well as the kitchen, which is the red line over here. So we're stuck in a range in many tight kind of sense, but this kind of flipping the blue line from resistance to support really does remind me of Tesla. It really does remind me of Tesla because you can see how the blue line was serving as resistance for a very, very long time. You're talking about for like about 4 months. And then just one day, you just flip that into support. And it's just been testing support for about, a couple months before it's to really start to, truly break out of the zone over here and attack the cloud. And attack the cloud it did, right? So this really does remind me a little bit more of what Tesla could have done is what, SOFI could potentially do. It could potentially go sideways here for longer. Although with earnings, and also the biggest problem is that with the Bollinger Band squeezing this tight on the weekly chart, it really does make me wonder whether or not you are talking about some potential big move that's coming. I just don't see like SOFI being that muted on earnings day. And so far the Bollinger Band is telling me that a big move is probably going to come with earnings. Now, it could be up, it could be down. I just said nothing, but I'm going to show you, in addition to the blue line being flipped from resistance to support, you also have the bull market support band that's also been flipped from resistance to support, right? So there's a lot of confluence between the blue line as well as the bull line support band, which includes the 21-week EMA and the 20-week SMA. And it's important to see things being flipped from resistance to support because these are very constructive price action. I'm going to get rid of the Ichimoku cloud. I'm going to pull up some of the other moving averages here. I'm going to kind of show you what I'm also thinking. It's been squeezing between the 50-week SMA, which is blue right here, and the 100-week SMA, which is black right here. It's just been squeezing hard between the two. It's also, finding support over here, the 21-week moving averages and 100. And the 50 is a little bit negative sloping, but it's starting to turn a little bit flat, right? So if I have to kind of use it as like a battle between ranges, and this is the definition of a range because you have a lot of resistance above, and you also have a lot of support below, and it's just kind of stuck in a range. So it's hard to really predict for sure what the short-term move is going to be. It's almost impossible to predict what the short-term move is going to be. So I don't really care. Like, to be completely honest with you, I don't really care. I keep buying SOFI on a weekly basis because I actually do think that there's some discrepancies in terms of what the chart is showing. With the if you just look at the volume, it's been declining, right? So this whole down move over here, this vicious down move over here, really for about like 8 or 9 months for so far, it's been on declining volume. I think everybody who wanted to sell out of SOFI and just thought that SOFI is a crap stock has already left. And you have a pretty decent buy volume over here over the last couple of weeks, right? I also want to say something else too, like this downtrend over here. There's something a little bit fishy about it too, because if you look at the unbalanced volume, And this is going to show you, like, even with this big giant red volume candle, price actually did go up, right? Even with this big giant red candle over here, price didn't really go down that much. This red candle over here, price didn't really go down that much. And with the green candles, like sometimes it would, like just a little bit of volume, you're able to get it up a lot higher. So there's a little bit of discrepancy in terms of what the volume here is showing. I think these big red volume candles over here are actually telling you that a lot of stocks have exchanged hands. But overall, there is a little bit more of a selling pressure than buying pressure. But these actually don't really reflect like, oh, this is like capitulation. Like, it doesn't reflect that at all. You can see that on the unbalanced volume over here too, the OBV indicator, that when you have price just kind of going down like this, or from here going down like that, and the unbalanced volume actually has gone up. It has gone up. You have a very, very classic bullish divergence that's been happening. Basically just saying that this down move over here, even though the volume looks scary, but you actually add up the volume, it doesn't make sense. There are some hidden buying pressure behind the scenes that have been really happening for like the last 7 or 8 months. And if you look at like just fintel.io, you can also see that is the case, where there is increasing in institutional ownership for SOFI over the last 8 months or so. Like, this is, I'm not making this up, right? Price goes down, on balance volume up, and the institutional accumulation goes up. So because of that, I am, very skeptical with this downtrend over here that's been happening for the last like 7 or 8 months. It's just because like institutions are telling me something, right? Now, granted, with earnings, things can get volatile. Can it break down underneath the bull run support band? Can it break down underneath all of these, potential support here on the Ichimoku cloud? Can it break down underneath the blue line over here? Anything's possible. Can it break down all the way down to like 6.3, which is where the lower Bollinger Band is located? All of these things is possible, right? I think 6.3, 6.5 is probably going to be as low as it goes if it ends up going there. But before it goes down there, you do have a lot of support. And I think that the range is more up higher. I think the range is probably going to be more above $7 to like $8. This is the range right now that it's trading at. So do I think that's going to break down that far low down to like 6.3? It's always a possibility. But I do think that there is some support here that happens before 6.3, which is going to be probably around like 6.5, 6.6 range, somewhere around here. I just think that it's been, again, it can break down to 6.3 and it just bounce up, right? But I think that there is some support zone here around 6.5, 6.6, just simply because this pitchfork has been working out pretty well so far. It just looks like it's been an uptrend and it's just been falling up this channel very, very slowly on the log scale. And it got rejected over here at this particular line here on this channel. But it's been forming a little bit of a bull flag. Like, there's a lot of confluence up here where it got rejected from, including the weekly Ichimoku cloud, which is not surprising because I don't think it's going to push through the weekly Ichimoku cloud on the first try. But the thing is, it's been forming like a very nice like bull flag look kind of thing to it. And I do think that right now, if it comes back down to bounce to like the 6.5, 6.6, or even if it goes down to short term to the low Bollinger Band out here, I still think that it's probably going to be a buying opportunity if that happens. If it does that, there's no guarantee that it's going to do that. And if anything, this, like, if it hits like 6.3, that's just going to be the horizontal range that's been trading here. Like, it's just basically back test the bottom of range again. Like, to be honest, I'm not even sure if it's going to make that much technical damage anymore. Like, the technical damage has already been done. And right now it's been happening on declining volume. So all this stuff is really like non-committal, and I see like, buying pressure actually behind the scene. So I'm not really that scared even if the price goes back down here. I think that would be potentially a buying opportunity. Would it necessarily have to do that if you already have all kinds of support right here, and if you're on the upper part of the Bollinger Band, doesn't necessarily have to break down that far from earnings? No, but it is SOFI, it is volatile. I just want to let you know kind of like the lower levels that I see. The upper level where I'm going to see resistance at, well, 7.7, 7.6 range, and then $8 range. And I don't think, like, let's say for example, if earnings was really good, the initial positive reaction during the earnings call was extremely bullish, you could potentially have price going up. And SoFi does this all the time. It can go up like 10, 12, 13, 15% pre-market, and it could potentially get all faded, right? Where would I find the resistance at? I think resistance is going to be like the big resistance is going to be around like 8.65. If it hits 8.65, if I was a trader, which I'm not, but if it hits 8.65, I would have been selling. And if it hits 8.65, I think that's a good spot to sell. And if you're still bullish on a stock, you actually believe in fundamentals, people are probably going to end up selling. The rip is probably going to end up coming back down here, maybe close to the week underneath right here, if it's bullish, right? It's probably going to close the week under maybe like 8.2 or $8, somewhere around there. And you'll be just right back at resistance, and it's still going to be stuck in a range here for a while. I can totally see SoFi doing that. Now, if there is a true sentiment change when it comes to small cap stocks, if IWM is really truly doing well, if rates continue to drop, I have a hard time seeing SoFi not breaking above the range given time. But I'm just saying, like, I think that there is some potential for a diabolical move down here. If it goes down to like 6.3, that would be a buying opportunity. If it goes up to like maybe 8.6, that'll be a selling opportunity. That's going to be like the range that I'm looking at if I was trading earnings. And you don't have to predict what earnings is going to do. You just react. You know, that's kind of how I think if you're a trader, that's probably how I would have approached it, but I'm not a trader. I'm just here to look at charts. I'm just here to talk my stuff. And if anything, if you ask me how SoFi is going to go on the higher time frame, I still really cannot be that bullish on it because it is still underneath a lot of resistance. It's still underneath the 20-month moving average, which initially we had, right? But we lost it on declining volume, grant you, but it's also pointing up, so I'm not sure how big of a resistance this is, right? The other thing is also, you're also hitting some resistance here at the monthly Tenkan and Kijun. Got rejected here at the Kijun for the month of July, which is basically confluent with the weekly Ichimoku cloud, like it's right there, right? So if you're talking about getting rejected, you have a lot of resistance above too, around like 8.3, around $8. So you can imagine if it hits like 8.3, 8.6, it's probably going to come back down. So I'm not going to be that bullish here on the short term, even if the initial reaction is very, very well. I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm just going to keep accumulating because I see a lot of discrepancies between what price action has been doing, between volume, and also what the institutions are doing in general. So I still think that this is an up channel, and I still think whenever it hits the bottom of the range, which is going to be around like 6.5, 6.6, I think it's going to be a pretty decent buying opportunity if it ends up doing that this week. Right? Those are kind of my thoughts for SoFi. It might be a fool's, thoughts, but that's what I'm seeing. I generally get a little bit more bullish when things look like they're a little closer to like the bottom of the range. Again, this is a little bit of a bull flag. There's no guarantee it's going to come down. I just want you to know what I'm thinking, and it doesn't matter to me. Like if you have to make me guess what it's going to do, I already showed you what my thoughts are in terms of what I think it's going to do. I really think that this mirrors Tesla. And I really think that it's broken above the bull market support band, broken above the 20-week moving average, just like what Tesla did before it broke out. And I think that the most likely scenario is going to be the upside. But I did tell you what I think if it ends up going up, like where people end up selling. I also think that, I already told you, I already showed you like the weekly Ichimoku cloud. I think this flipping the blue line to taken from resistance to support. I don't think this is something small. I think this is something big, and it could result in something big. But again, I'm not here to kind of tell you. I'm not saying it's just going to break above the cloud, back test the cloud. Although if it does that, that's it. Like that's it for the bears. Like that's it. If it goes down underneath to like 6.6, the bulls cannot be counted out yet. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like the risk, this is the part of the chart where I think the risk reward ratio is actually pretty decent. And I'm just going to keep adding to SoFi and see what happens, right? And I think I probably talked a little bit too much about SoFi already. So I'm going to move on to just spend a couple of minutes talking about PayPal. What is PayPal doing? What do I expect to happen? I already talked about it during my live stream. What I'm going to show you just on the monthly chart here is trying to flip the blue line from resistance to support the Tenkan here on the monthly. Initially, I thought it had it in the bag, but it broke down underneath of it. And right now, it's still as resistance, right? So I'm still waiting for it to kind of flip from resistance to support before I can really be that bullish on it. It's still underneath this volume shelf over here. So we're still kind of underneath resistance here. So we'll see what happens. On top of that, on the 20-month moving average, it's still very, very negative sloping. So even if earnings was really good, I can totally see it maybe hitting like the 65 range, 66 range, and be really bullish and get rejected. You know, same thing, right? The volume shelf over here, 65, 66 range, and then potentially getting rejected here. And it might take time to really flatten out the 20-month moving average before it really can get things going. I think PayPal has bottomed. I don't think that PayPal is going to go down that much further anymore, but it's time for it to flip the 20-month moving average from resistance to support, and that can take quite a lot of time, right? Same thing, I think it has to flip the Tenkan from resistance to support, and that could take some time. You know, right now the Tenkan is around like 61, and right now the 20-month moving average is around 65 or so. I can totally see it hitting 65, 66, got rejected, coming back down, spending the next few months kind of, you know, flipping the Tenkan from resistance support. I just, at this point, I just have a hard time seeing PayPal like really crapping the bets on earning. Like their comps should be fine. Their expectations for PayPal is like so low that I just have a hard time seeing that like it's going to keep going down. Like I just have a hard time seeing that. Most likely is probably just going to get stuck in this range over here maybe for the next few months, trying to get out of this volume shelf over here before hitting the next volume shelf probably by the end of the year or early next year is what I'm saying, maybe like the 70s. But I don't see it just mooning from here. That's just not what my expectations are. The other things too is still underneath the boomerang support band. Like even if you look at the weekly chart, it's still underneath the boomerang support band. So I can totally see it coming back above like to the 60s and got rejected. And it might have to go sideways here for a couple of months to kind of really flip the boomerang support band from resistance back to support. It's just been oscillating sideways over here and done nothing for months, right? So I think it might end up continue doing nothing for another couple of months before going up. I just don't see that much volatility coming for PayPal. The Bollinger Band has been squeezing tight, but like it's just been squeezing for months. I just don't see that big of a move. And the upper part of Bollinger Band right now is like 68, somewhere around there. So it can go up even a little bit higher and kind of get rejected down underneath back to maybe like the 60, 61 range. Flip the 20-week moving average, flip the monthly Tenkan and support before going up further. That's my primary case when it comes to PayPal. And until it really shows me something great, I still think that it's probably still stuck in a range. You're probably going to end up doing that for another couple of months before breaking out. The weekly Ichimoku cloud is looking more and more bullish because it actually did attempt to break into the cloud here. Got rejected from the cloud, though, fell out of the cloud and trying to get back in so far. We just don't have enough catalyst to push it back in. I can totally see it, and again, I can totally see it going up to like 65, which is the top of the cloud, and then coming back down to 60, 61, and then just bounce around here before going up. There's just so much confluence that it wants to just get stuck in a range. That's probably what I think it's going to do. But again, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have any insider information. I'm just guessing based on what I'm looking at. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here for PayPal. Anyway, just want to share you my thoughts here real quick on SOFI and PayPal. Good luck on both. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.